We now invite our leader who's driving this energy path from India, our Honorable Minister, the Honorable Minister of Power and the Honorable Minister of New and Renewable Energy, Shri R K Singh ji, our Honorable Chief Guest, inviting him for his address.
What we saw at the inaugural is a true reflection of what India is today. Now, I'll say that India is great, and the power family of India, the power system of India is also great. I am happy to see I'm happy to note the fact that our family seems to have grown. It seems to have tripled or quadrupled from when we met each other 3 or 4 years back. Excellency, Mr. Jemu Soda, the Honorable Minister of Energy and Power Development, Zimbabwe. Jitendra Agrawal ji, Rohit Pathak ji, Mr. Pascal, other dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen. I am happy to be here. As I said, we are all one family. And we have a huge, huge responsibility on our shoulders, your shoulders and my shoulders. Our responsibility is to power the growth of the country. Now, I am happy to say that we have been doing that. From 2014, 2015 onwards, it is our sector which has powered the growth of this country. And what we have done, we can be proud of. We connected every village, we connected every hamlet, we connected every home. We connected 2 crore 90 lakhs homes in just 19 months. We transformed our country from power deficit to power surplus. We added 178,000 megawatts of capacity from 2014 onwards till date, 178,000 megawatts. Incidentally, much of that was renewable, much of that was non-fossil. We added 174,000 circuit kilometers of transmission lines, connecting our whole country into one grid, running on one frequency, capable of transferring 112,000 megawatts from one part of the country to another. This has emerged as the largest single integrated grid in the world. There are larger transmission lines elsewhere, but they are all segmented. We are one integrated grid, and as such, the largest integrated grid in the world. We have powered our country not only by providing electricity, but we have powered our country by being a leader in investments. Imagine the investments which we have put on the ground: 178,000 megawatts of capacity and 174,000 circuit kilometers of transmission lines. Apart from that, about 2.5 lakh crores on strengthening the distribution systems. We added 2,900 plus new substations, upgraded 3,900 plus older substations, added 8.5 lakh circuit kilometers of HT lines, LT lines, 750,000 new transformers, 164,000 circuit kilometers of agriculture feeders. We did all that. Millions and millions of meters, etc. We did all that. The availability of power in rural areas has gone up from 12 hours in 20 2015 to 22.5 hours today. That's in rural areas. In urban areas, the average, the national average is about 23.5 hours. And this includes, the difficult areas like Rajasthan and the Northeast. So we've done a lot. We've done a lot. We can be proud of what we have done as a family. But the challenge has just begun. Now that is something which I was telling my friends here, Jitendra and Rohit, that is what is keeping me tense. The challenge has just begun. Our country is growing at 7%. It's the fastest growing large economy in the world. And it will remain the fastest growing large economy in the world for the coming 2, 3, 4 decades. We'll become the third largest economy by, I think, in 2026, 27, we'll become the third largest economy. Now that means that our power demand is growing. Our economy is growing at 7%. My power demand has grown at 10%. This year's growth is 10% more than what it was last year. On a daily basis, my demand is about 20,000 to 25,000 megawatts more than on the corresponding day last year. That my consumption today is 1490 billion units. By 2030, it will be 3,000 billion units. That's conservative. But that's more than double. Today, our power generation capacity is 410 gigawatts, 410,000 megawatts. In 2030, it will have to be 800,000 megawatts. That's again conservative. Doubling our capacity in less than 7 years from now is the challenge which is there before us. And it will double again by 2047. Now imagine the quantum of transmission lines we have to add. Now we just decided that we'll put 500 gigawatts out of the 800 gigawatts which we'll establish by 2030 will be non-fossil. Now for that we calculated the investments required in transmission. I require to invest 2,44,000 crores more from what I have invested in the transmission system. The scale of the transmission lines, HT lines, LT lines, transformers, meters required between now and 2030 will just double. Imagine doubling the present stock of what India has in the next 7 years. That's what you have to do. That's what we have to do. That's the huge, huge demand which is coming up before you. Huge, huge demand. Staggering demand. You need that many more LT lines, HT lines, underground cables. The agriculture feeders will be universal. The transformers required. You have to double your manufacturing capacities. And in a short order. That's the rate at which we are growing. We have to double what India is, what India's power system is in 7 years. Now, does that make you tense? It does make me tense. But I am happy also. I am happy that, yes, we are powering India's growth. And if we don't make this, if we don't succeed, the growth rate of our country will come down. So we have to succeed. We have to succeed. Exports are good, yes, absolutely, absolutely. No doubt about it. We need to export more. But in my country, I need much more of what you are manufacturing. In my country. For my growth. So that's what we have to keep in mind. India has been unshackled. This government has unshackled India. Now the change which we have brought about is that now we work as a team, you and us. We work as a team. Now that's the change. So we discuss things. If we have problems, we solve it. We make sure that there is a level playing field. We make sure that there is transparency. We give you room to grow. But we want you to grow. Because it's you who is adding capacity, not me. It's you who is adding capacity. It's you who is adding that huge number of megawatts and the huge thousands of circuit kilometers of transmission line. You who is making it. So we'll work out a system whereby we'll keep our dialogue going. That's what we discussed with Jitendra and Rohit. So we'll work out a system so that we keep our dialogue going. But let me share with you our vision of what we are going to do, where we are at. We have already emerged. I have heard the previous speakers. I've heard Pi, I've heard Pascal, etc. Now, I've been very clear and very blunt about how I see things, and that I have spoken on many fora. The world was, the first thing I want to start off by saying is that I'm not defensive, India is not defensive. It is not defensive, why? Because we have added. We have become the fastest growing renewable energy capacity in the world. We have emerged as the biggest and the most attractive destination for investments in the world. We are the only major economy whose energy transition actions are consonant with a sub-2-degree rise in global temperature. The only major economy, mind you. Not all those people who give lectures every day. It is us. Our rate of growth of renewable energy capacity has been the fastest in the world. What we pledged to do by 2030, we did by November 2021. We had pledged in COP21 that by 2030, 40% of our capacity will come from non-fossils. We achieved that in November 21. Today, 42% of my capacity is non-fossil. And the rate of transition continues. The rate of growth of renewable energy capacity continues at a faster, and it will continue at a faster pace than any other country. Not only in capacity terms, in energy efficiency. In energy efficiency, we had pledged that by 2030, we'll reduce the emissions intensity of our economy by 33%. Now we are already at 30%. We've reduced the emissions intensity of our economy already by 30%. And this is despite the fact that we are the lowest emitters in the world, bar none. Our per capita emissions are 1/3 of the global average. The per capita emissions of the developed countries are 3 times, 4 times the global average. And that remains true. If you look at the global carbon dioxide load which has caused the current warming which we see today, 85% of that has come from the developed countries. We are responsible for only 3.4% of the carbon dioxide load, legacy carbon dioxide load today in the atmosphere, even though our population is 17.5%. So we don't have, we are proud of what we have done in energy transition. We are proud of what we are doing in energy transition, and we are proud about what we are doing in climate action. And no other country comes close. So as I said, we don't have to be defensive. But let me tell you again, I've said this on international forum, I'll tell you here as well, that insofar as energy availability for the growth of our country is concerned, I'm not going to compromise. Yes, I mean, energy transition is necessary. Climate action is necessary. Our government believes in it. Our Prime Minister believes in it. But this is something which I said before Ukraine, and this is something which I said before the supply chain disruption in gas, in natural gas, etc., which caused developed countries to go back to fossil fuels. I said that India will not compromise with the requirements of energy for growth. So if for that I have to have fossils, I will have fossils. Sorry. But that is non-negotiable. And you know why we will need to have fossils, continue to have fossils? Because the developed world has not done what it kept talking about but did nothing. You can't have round-the-clock renewables, you can't have round-the-clock renewable energy unless you have storage. And the sun shines during the day, you have solar energy. At night, what? The wind blows, sometimes it doesn't blow at other times. Then what? You need electricity round the clock. Now the answer was storage. But the problem is that the cost of storage is very high. Why? Because the developed world did not take the trouble to add volumes, because they were not really concerned about it. They were talking about climate change, but not really concerned about it. When we started adding capacity, we realized that storage is absolutely essential. Why? Because already there are many states in my country who have to let go, back down solar and back down wind. Many of you who are developers of solar and wind will know that. They have to waste it, because the solar capacity during midday is much more than the system needs, and the wind in some areas and some states, and similarly wind. Now, if we had storage, we would have stored that and used it at night. But the point is that when we started off, the largest storage capacity in the world was in California, which was 450 megawatts only. 450 megawatts only. Imagine that. So when we came out with a bid for 1,000 megawatt hours of storage, the rate which we got was 10 rupees per unit. My renewable energy cost is 2 rupees 40 paise per unit. So the storage cost per kilowatt hour is 4 times the cost of the energy. So it's not viable. Now this 1,000 megawatt hours, we have finalized the bid, we'll use it. But then we are going to have to provide subsidy, VGL, to make it viable. Why? Now, so I have started adding volumes, because the rest of the world has it. So we came out with a PLI for manufacturing of storage. Unfortunately, that PLI needed to be better designed. Most of the storage which is being manufactured is for electric mobility, which is required, because we are very clear in our mind that our mobility will go green, our mobility will go electric, and for heavier mobility it will be hydrogen. We are very clear in our mind. So that storage is required. But I also need storage for grid scale. 1,000 megawatt hours, 2,000 megawatt hours, 5,000 megawatt hours. I mean, my capacity, for God's sake, is 410,000 megawatts. So I need huge quantities of storage. So we are coming out with another PLI, only for grid scale storage. And this PLI, of course, will be in 2 tranches. One will be for lithium ion, and the other tranche will be for sodium ion. Because we have to sort of diversify our supply chains. Unfortunately, about 85 to 89% of the reserves, lithium reserves, have already been tied up by one country. And so we are very conscious about supply chain security. So we'll have to look for alternatives. Now that again is a problem. Now this is the thinking which we are doing. And all those people who have been lecturing the world on the climate, if they had started actually taking action on that, these problems would have been solved. These problems have not been solved. But we shall solve it. India will solve it. Because why? Because we believe in the fact that we need to leave behind a better earth for our children and grandchildren than we found it. So we'll do what is necessary to be done. But in the meantime, I am not going to compromise on the availability of energy for our growth. I am not going to compromise on the availability of energy for giving a better standard of living for our people. Let there be no mistake. And nobody can lecture us, because in climate action we are ahead of everyone. So nobody can lecture us. Now, so today, I have almost about 48,000 megawatts of thermal under construction. We have about 14,000 megawatts of hydro under construction, and another 18,000 megawatts of hydro will come under construction in the next 1 year. And the DPRs, etc., are under preparation. That will make it 32,000 megawatts of hydro. I have 85,000 megawatts of renewables under construction, and 8,000 megawatts of nuclear under construction. Yes, nuclear is a part of our calculations. So we are going to continue adding nuclear, because you need base load, you need round-the-clock energy. Nuclear is an answer, and we must realize the fact that nuclear is safe. Unfortunately, what happens is that when we started adding nuclear, you see that some people, some NGOs funded from God knows where, they come up and start agitating. When we started setting up this Kudankwila, where were they funded from? Shall I tell you? I was Home Secretary at that time. I was Home Secretary of the country. And when I started investigating, I told the agencies to investigate where they are getting their funding from. The agitation stopped. It stopped, it disappeared. There was agitation against Subansiri, 2,000 megawatt hydropower plant. Now the developed world has exploited 60 to 80 to 90% of its hydropower. When we start exploiting our hydropower potential, then people come up with we call it in Hindi shagufas, saying that it's deleterious to the environment. And when we started investigating against where these NGOs were getting the funds from, all that agitation is gone. Subansiri, the first unit will be commissioned in June, July. And you know something? I set up a committee to actually examine whether the hydropower is deleterious to the environment. Now that committee has submitted this report. It's getting printed. I will release it. They found, and they studied the number of hydro projects. They found that wherever the hydro projects have been set up, the number of landslides have come down, the level of greenery has increased, and of course, flood security. There has been security from flood. So the hydro projects, wherever they have been set up, have been beneficial. Much of the reasons for prosperity, early prosperity of Punjab and Haryana was because of Bhakra. And the fact that they are getting electricity today at 50 paise per unit. If I set up a hydro plant today, the tariff would be 4 rupees per unit. The great thing is that in 25 years from now, it will still be 4 rupees per unit, which will be nothing. So basically, in short, we are going to make sure that there is no shortage of power. That is a huge, huge challenge. It's not easy. It's not easy because I have to add 400,000 megawatts by 2030, and I have to add another 800,000 megawatts from 2030 to 2050. That is the challenge for us. And we have to double the length of our transmission systems. We have to triple the length of our ST lines, LT lines. And all this we shall do with an eye on the climate, but no compromise. And we'll work very hard to make storage viable. So we'll come out with pilots. We'll come out with pilots using green ammonia for storage. Of course, sodium ion, as I said, we'll try out for storage. Pumped hydro, I have already mapped, all the possible sites of pumped storage, and we are going to exploit every site of pumped storage which there is. Our energy will be as far as possible green. I will no doubt about that, because ideologically, our Prime Minister, our party believes in green, believes in the necessity of preserving the environment. We shall do so. We shall do so. But India will grow, ladies and gentlemen. India will grow. Nothing can stop India from growing. The challenge is for us. The challenge is for us to make sure that we provide the equipment, we provide the power which is needed for India to grow. We shall be one of the biggest investors, of course, in the growth story, because we have to add capacity. So we shall be one of the biggest investors in the growth story. But the huge opportunities which are going to come, the scale is mind-boggling. Now, only for green hydrogen, I need about 100 gigawatts of electrolyzer manufacturing capacity. This is mind-boggling. The largest electrolyzer manufacturing capacity is in the region of about 4,000 or 5,000 megawatts. 4 or 5,000 megawatts. I need 100,000 megawatts. Now, so we have coming out with a PLI for electrolyzer manufacturing. Then we need huge quantity of solar cells, modules, etc. We came out with a PLI. Now that resulted in manufacturing capacity of 8,700 megawatts from polysilicon to modules. Now we are going to come out with another PLI. It has already come out. The bid will be finalized very shortly. Now that will result in a manufacturing capacity of 37,000 megawatts of polysilicon and 65,000 megawatts of cells and modules. But that, again, is something which will just about meet our requirements. Now imagine, I have about 70,000 megawatts of solar under construction. Today, the manufacturing capacity which I have for grid scale and efficient solar modules, etc., is just about 8,000 megawatts. 8,000. Even to meet the even to make sure that the 70,000 megawatts is constructed, it will take 9 years if I allow things to continue as it is. But I'm not going to allow things to continue as it is. So what this sector will see, it will see investments, it will see urgency. There will be no compromise with quality. Exports are fine, but your country is growing. Your country will need a huge quantity of equipment which you will manufacture. We shall be conscious of quality. Let's do it. Let's make India great. India is actually what you reflected in the opening. That is India. At the end, that is India. And I am proud of you for what you have done till now. But as I said, we have a huge task ahead of us. We'll do it. We'll do it. Thank you. All the best. Let us grow together. Let's make India great.